Hello, I am Diego Haas. I am a JavaScript engineer at Automatic. For the past years, I've been working mostly with accessibility using React components, and I'm one of the maintainers of some open source libraries like AreaKit and WordPress components. In this talk, I'm going to show you how to create an accessible component, more specifically a combo box, using the new React 18 features to render the items asynchronously. So here we have a very simple combo box implementation using just native HTML elements. We have a list of items that is rendered inside a combo box list that will be visible when the input has focus. But there are some problems with this implementation. If I'm using a mouse, I can hover over the items, I can even click on them, and it looks like it works, but if I'm using the keyboard, there's no way I can access the items. On a combo box, you should be able to move through the items using the arrow keys. And here, I'm pressing the arrow down key and nothing happens. So this component is not really accessible to keyboard users. It's also not accessible to screen readers. People with visual impairments may use a screen reader to access your site and interact with your components. So you should make sure your components are accessible for them. On desktop, screen reader users will also use the keyboard to interact with your site. So if it's not accessible to keyboard users, it's probably not accessible to screen reader users as well. Besides fixing the keyboard interactions, we also need to implement the correct semantics to the element. So people who can see will know what the type of element they're interacting with, so they know how to use it the same way sighted users know how to use a component based on how it's visually presented. To show how this works, I'm going to use NVDA, which is one of the most popular screen readers.
Fruit edit blank.
When the input receives focus, it just announces fruit added blank. If I try to use the arrow keys,
Blank. Blank.
it doesn't work as well. Building a fully accessible combo box component may take a lot of time. I've gone through that process and it took me several months. So it's better to use a library for that. Here I'm going to use AreaKit, which allows me to easily turn any component into an accessible component without having to worry about styles, because I can just reuse my own styles, and I can even keep my my current element structure. So I'm going to import from AreaKit /combo box, and I'm going to need the combo box component, combo box item, combo box popover, and use combo box state. And for each fruit, instead of a div, I'm going to render a combo box item. I also need to pass the value prop. And we don't need this state anymore. We can use the combo box state provided by the library. And instead of this input, we are going to use the combo box component, and we don't need those props anymore because this behavior will be handled by the combo box component internally. So we just need to pass the state object, and we don't have this is open state anymore, but we do have the combo box.visible state. And instead of this div, it's going to be a combo box popover, and I also need to pass the state. And now the UI looks the same, but the functionality is here. So if I interact with the combo box using the keyboard, it works. I can navigate through the items using the arrow keys. I can press escape to close the popover. And besides the keyboard interactions, it has also fixed the semantics. So let's open NVDA again.
Fruit combo box collapsed editable blank.
Now, when the input receives focus, it correctly announces that this is a combo box and it's collapsed. And I can use arrow keys to open the popover and navigate through the items.
Blank. Expanded. List. Apple 1 of 4. Apricot 2 of 4. Avocado 3 of 4.
So let's see now how we can make it more dynamic using React Suspense. First, I'm gonna import fetch from React Fetch. And here, instead of this static array, I'm gonna fetch an URL. It's gonna be API/fruits, and I'm gonna pass a query that I'm gonna receive from the props. And here I need the JSON. And here in the fruits component, we need to pass the query prop. It's gonna be, it's gonna be the combo box value, and we need to wrap this component with React Suspense, passing a fallback, which is gonna be a loading text. And now I can type in the combo box and it's going to fetch the list of items based on the input value. And this looks really good, but there's still some improvements we can do here. For example, while I'm typing, it keeps showing this loading state. With React 18, we have a hook that will allow us to keep the old state on the screen while the new state is loading. So here we can just say const query, and we're going to use deferred value from React, and here we're going to pass the combo box value. And instead of passing the combo box value directly to the fruits component, we are going to pass our query, which is our deferred value. And now the intermediate loading state is not being shown anymore. The current items are preserved on the screen while the new state is loading. And as a bonus, if I start typing something and I quickly move to the item before the next state is rendered, if the next state contains the element that has focus, the focus will not be lost, which is also really great for accessibility. But we still have access to the loading state within our code. It's going to be loading when the current value, our combo box value, is different from the query, which is the deferred value. And you can use it, for example, to show a spinner. You can dim the items or disable click on them to prevent misclicks between the transitions, for example. And I'm gonna leave this as a task for you. So please, if you build something with that, you can share with me. And we've just learned how to build an accessible component using React 18. If you want to keep in touch, you can find me on Twitter at Diego Haas. I share a lot of stuff about accessibility and React, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.